Well, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle, and I've been trying to get people to look up for quite some time instead of looking down at their little rectangles, their little devices. Because if you do, you will see that something is going on in our skies that is affecting our health. So in order to help you understand the importance of looking up, I've brought on an expert who will open your eyes to the truth in our skies. Matt Landman is growing in recognition as a leader in 5G and geoengineering awareness activism. His passion and view-changing information come directly from official documentation and accepted science-backed research. He created the social change documentary Frankenskies, which I happen to really find fascinating. And it's a free documentary bringing awareness to ongoing atmospheric aerosol injections, climate change, weather modification programs, and geoengineering. All of things we're going to be talking about today. So from the day he realized something abnormal was occurring in our skies, he was driven to do something about it, and he has, and we are going to talk all about that. And I love his passion. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jodelle, for having me on.
Absolutely.
That's a great intro, and it's nice to meet like-minded folks, especially people from the Midwest. Recently, I've been meeting some really nice, cool folks from around those parts. So nice to see you.
Yeah, we're kind of deep thinkers out here, so we like to we like to think outside the box. But so first off, if you guys have not seen Frankenskies while we're talking here, you may even want to come back to this podcast after you watch this incredible documentary that will have you scratching your head and looking up quite a bit. And you can't negate this film, as it starts even in like the 1920s with this amazing timeline of things that have happened in our skies. So let's start with that, Matt. Why are you so interested in educating the world as an activist about this thing called geoengineering, which you can obviously explain what that is as well?
Because nobody knows about it. That's the really short answer, and then the long answer I could talk for like hours. So and thank you for asking. I grew up in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, right outside DC, and I went to Virginia Tech in Southern Virginia, so I had the taste of both sides of country life in Virginia. Like Southern Virginia and Northern Virginia, totally different world. You know, Northern Virginia is like DC. Southern Virginia is not. It's like country. So anyways, I've walked a lot of different walks of life. I've worn many hats. I got a business degree. I got a master's degree in business, film. I studied film as well. I ended up becoming a filmmaker. I've had like 40 different jobs. I've driven cross country a dozen times. I just learned to paddleboard this summer,
Hey,
and I'm
right up my
excited to tell you that. Yeah. And my point is I'm a normal guy, normal dude. Maybe a little more ambitious than some, because I did break out of where I grew up and moved to LA, moved to San Diego, went back to school in California, and I had that wanderlust, you know, but I'm still just this normal person. And I see through that lens of a normal person. You know, I grew up listening to all the music everyone listened to, you know, from Rage Against the Machine to Wu-Tang to ska when it came out, and all this stuff. We're probably around the same age. I don't know. I was born in 1980, and just like
Same.
did you say same?
Same, yeah.
Really cool. Anyway, and you know, in the like 1998, I was 18, and you know, when the internet came out, I was like an adult for it. And when I was a kid, there was no internet, and so it was a precious thing, and I'm a normal guy, and the fact that I knew nothing about it really blew my mind. It blew my world to pieces, really. So I was in my mid 30s, and I woke up to it firsthand. I witnessed weather engineering when I decided to work on a farm. I had never worked on a farm. I didn't know anything about that, and I thought it was just like redneck stupid stuff. Like, I grew up kind of in the city, and I would never have worked on a farm, you know, but I did after getting a freaking master's in business and working in the office again and realizing I wanted to learn something else. And my first day on the farm, I learned more than I learned some more valuable information than I ever learned in my entire lifetime. Like, I learned that potatoes, you put them in the ground, they grow potatoes. I didn't even know that. I didn't know about varieties of this and that. I had no idea that there were thousands and thousands of types of apples. I thought there was like four, you know, I didn't grasp any of it. I grew up thinking I knew everything, and I didn't know much at all. And so once I witnessed firsthand weather engineering, which I'll tell that quickly story and then we can go on. So we were in the midst of a catastrophic drought in California. And I was like year 5 of this drought. And that's the year that I started working on this organic farm. And we grew all sorts of stuff, squash, like 20 varieties of squash. I didn't even know that many varieties of squash existed. All those different varieties of things, over a dozen varieties of potatoes. And potatoes were dry farming, like you don't even water them. It's amazing. Potatoes are amazing. On a little side note, the Incans bred the poison out of potatoes. They're actually nightshades and they're poisonous, but they were farmed and selectively bred. And over generations, the poison was taken out of this abundant plant so that we could actually eat it and grow it and stuff. So this one day we were expecting a lot of rain, and I went to work expecting to get rained on, harvesting pumpkins in the field is what it was, because it was early October and we didn't expect rain that early, and we didn't want all the pumpkins to rot out there and lose the crop. So I'm out there harvesting pumpkins, and this huge storm comes in off the ocean. And where I worked in Northern California, very rural community, agricultural community, and I could hear the waves. That's how close I was to the ocean. It's really beautiful place to go to school and then go to work on a farm and whatnot, and witness this and tell the story and be able to tell the story. So on the edge of this big storm, where we're about to get a week of rain, like a big black 1 week storm, like a big storm, it's coming in, and on the edge of this storm, all these planes showed up, and it was and me majoring in business and studying statistics. And I actually graduated top of my class with a master's in business with a focus in strategic sustainability. The statistics were really something for me because I studied stock market before and all this sort of stuff. And I'm a numbers guy. And there is something to be said about numbers and irregularity, like something that's not coincidental, like if you're out there every single day on the farm and there's no planes in the sky because there's no big airport near you because you're in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden 20 planes show up and they zigzag the sky, something's going on. And not only were they zigzagging the sky, but they were actually leaving lines out of the back of the jets, whereas normally if a plane flew by, it wouldn't be. So there's these irregularities, and the amount of planes on the sky all at once, and the fact that they're on the edge of the storm. And then the storm came, it didn't drop rain after that, and I still didn't have any reference point whatsoever. I didn't even know what I had witnessed. And so I kind of just tabled the memory. I just put it back in my file cabinet. And then like a month later, my buddy on the phone said the word chemtrails. That's it. And I looked it up on the internet, and so that's how valuable and precious and powerful our word is. You can plant the seed if you plant the seed properly. It's not about being all crazy and being that crazy conspiracy theorist that they think that name identifies people like that should be. You know what I mean? Like they think that anybody who thinks a certain way is going to be a certain way. Don't be that way. Meet them on their level, and then surprise them with, oh, well, actually, I've done some research and I think, the stuff coming out of the back of the jets might not be what you think. Whatever, plant the seeds, and then let them sit down and watch my movie, because that's an opportunity to not just like drill someone, but they can think for themselves. And the movie's not me narrating. I always watch documentaries, and I hated documentaries. I don't like people telling their self-absorbed, egotistical story. I might have to do something like that for the sequel, making the sequel Frankenskies 2, right. Climate Change. And the story is getting very more complicated, and so I might have to narrate some of it. But the educational documentary Frankenskies, it starts off 1920s and goes to modern day to 2017 when the movie came out. It's all just historical chronological footage, basically, until you get to modern day, and then it's footage that I shot interviewing people. But I'm not like saying, oh, look at it this way, or I'm not speaking throughout the movie. I'm just showing the facts. So I'm sorry, that was me answering one question. So how are you? What else you got? Hello. Thanks for asking.
Well, no, and I have to say, I heard it said one time, and I really like the saying, that it's not a conspiracy if there's published data behind it. And
Mm.
I will say your documentary is, there's data behind it. Like, you can go and do all this research. You can watch the military folks that are on your documentary talking about themselves being a part of it or knowing a lot of things about it. When I actually watched the movie, I talked to someone I know that's in the military, and they said, I cannot confirm or deny what you're saying to me because I know too much. So they couldn't
Wow.
actually tell me that it wasn't true, but they wouldn't go that deep with me. So that threw me. And I, since then, I have been just really wanting to educate people, because I think it's really important that we look and see what's going on so that we're aware and not just be naive about what's going on, because we do need to protect ourselves. We do need to take precautions. And we'll talk about that at some point. But going back to geoengineering, for the layperson, what does that mean?
That's a great question. And I'll get there one second. And that's
Yeah.
sometimes when you're speaking to people and they don't give you the direct answer, when you know that they probably know the answer, like it's kind of like a politician. I mean, he answered the question really, because obviously he knows that something's
Mm-hmm.
being sprayed and whatever. He's probably under this, basically he's being told that they're doing it to save the world for one, and that he can't say because it's national security. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's all these levels. So many people ask the question, well, how come people haven't come forward? Right? It's because they're compartmentalized, they're on a need to know basis, and at the end of the day they're being told it's this heroic, you know. So it's very much mind controlled, the entire situation. And when it's not in your payroll to be able to even know exactly what's going on, so you can't hardly speak to it when you're just there. But there's an elaborate orchestrated thing going on in the skies every single day. There's a lot of people that are in the know. And yeah, you're right, it's important for us to be aware. So many people are like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's the world that you live in.
Right.
Like if you were walking on lava, wouldn't you like to know? It's
Mm-hmm.
literally the environment in which you live. So geoengineering is a word that when I first started getting into chemtrails, it started coming up, and people would say, use that word. That's the professional sounding non-conspiracy word, geoengineering.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did, yeah, I threw the word around, geoengineering, this and that. But at the end of the day, come to find out, as it was normalized and released by the media. Okay. And the media is like, you can't just say media anymore. That when you say like the media releases something, that's like all the powers that be, including the like military. They, like, the media came out and said that geoengineering is now here to save us, and there's this new idea out of Harvard and Bill Gates, and they want to dim the sun. So geoengineering is dimming how much sunlight Earth gets in order to slow down anthropogenic, man-made global warming. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this big jump, leap forward, that there's actual man-made global warming, which I do not believe in, but that's another story for everybody. A lot of people will gasp at that. But the leap forward that there is global warming going on, that it's so bad that we need to act upon it and do something about it and intervene. So man needs to intervene because of man's carbon emissions, essentially. And geoengineering is, well, it's not just dimming the sun. You can geoengineer the planet in other ways by like messing with the ocean or whatever. But the primary geoengineering that we're discussing is spraying something into the atmosphere. There's all these different talks of chalk and aluminum, barium, strontium is what it comes down to. But they want to pretend like they're experimenting with sulfur and all these different things. But it's creating an artificial cloud layer to supposedly reflect light back into space, increasing the reflectivity of the atmosphere, they call it. There's a word called albedo, ALBEDDO, or maybe 1D, albedo, and that's the reflectivity of the Earth. And they want to increase the reflectivity of the Earth so that less sunlight gets in. Okay. So different experiments have been done in laboratories, they claim. Okay, they wanted to do a big experiment in Tucson, Arizona, spraying aluminum in the sky to do it in real world. And I went down there, had a big protest and a conference and a concert and a protest on Mother's Day for Mother Earth. The whole city knew about the experiment. Not everyone agreed that necessarily the chemtrails were ongoing, but everybody in that city knew that that experiment was about to happen with Bill Gates. And they said no, they put the kibosh on it. It didn't happen. It was amazing. The experiment was moved to Sweden. It didn't happen publicly. I mean, it's ongoing almost every day when I look out, my window. So it's like, what is that? But publicly, they say that they haven't done it in real world. But what they claim will work best is they claim that they first wanted to do diamonds, to spray diamonds in the atmosphere to reflect a light back into space, but the diamonds were too expensive. They claim that they tried and wanted to work with mirrors, but they can't get the mirrors to stick in the sky too much. And they want to use nanoparticulate aluminum. What they do is spray aluminum in the atmosphere and then zap it with electrical frequencies to get it to stay longer in the atmosphere and to superheat the atmosphere and different things to make chemical reactions in that atmosphere and whatnot. What happens, instead of increasing the reflectivity and making less light come in, what happens is that the light that comes in, it gets stuck. And that whole greenhouse effect that we learned about back in elementary school, they're enhancing, creating, intensifying a greenhouse effect by making a metal atmosphere. Think about it. The heat's not getting out. So they're actually making a global warming. And then that gets back to this Hegelian dialectic. If everyone knows, George Hegel at the turn of the century created this master-slave dialectic where you can basically convince the public to do whatever you want as long as you've got it planned out enough to have the solution to the problem that you've created already planned. So it's like, oh, the war on terror, we'll create the war on terror so that we can whatever, XYZ, take away the Rights Patriot Act or whatever it may be. For this agenda, they actually create the warming of the planet, create heat waves, create fires and different things, and actually change the word to climate change so they can just wreak havoc with this engineered weather called chemtrails, and then say, oh, look, we have this problem. The solution is geoengineering. And then as they slowly introduce geoengineering to the public and are geoengineering, they're making the problem even worse, making the climate change, global warming, whatever, heat waves, and saying, oh man, we really need to do this even more, you guys. See, there's this problem. And everyone's like eating it up because no one wants to think for themselves or look up and what have you.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense what you said. And this is impacting our health because I'm assuming the aluminum's not just going to stay up there. I'm assuming that it does fall down at some point and affect our health. And if you look up aluminum toxicity on, Google the symptoms of it. And from my understanding, it's very similar to like if you're having allergies, a sore throat, maybe even some symptoms of like a cold. It could actually not actually be that you're getting a cold. Is this stuff actually affecting our body when it's being sprayed in the sky? And also, I do want you to talk about, like, let's say somebody's walking right now listening to this podcast and we've gotten them to look up. What are they looking for? Because I know what it is. I know the grid patterns that I've seen here in the Midwest, but maybe explain like the difference between a normal cloud and how you know that there's stuff going on in the atmosphere.
Yes, definitely. It takes kind of a trained eye because sometimes it's not always that obvious. Sometimes it's very, very obvious, and it's surprising that some don't see it. So to finish what I was saying just before, the thing is there's a lot of confusion between the word geoengineering and chemtrails. Chemtrails is spraying aerosolized chemicals in the sky with drones and rockets and jets and stuff for whatever means. It could be to experiment on the population with lithium, which they do, to see how the people react. It could be to engineer the weather. It could be to dim the sun. Geoengineering is just this scheme to dim the sun, and it's becoming normalized, and they're putting a big happy face on it, like everyone should be excited about it, kind of thing, and be okay with it coming out of our tax dollars. I will probably blank on the first question, but I'll explain the clouds right now. So, okay, well, come to find out, the jets of our childhood, they were slowly becoming outfit with these new engines. Okay. So in the 1960s, the engines on the jets, they were pushing the jets with like propulsion, and they were using this jet fuel, and they were really hot, you know? And the idea of the contrail could hold water back then, because what they say now is like, oh, that line in the sky, it's a contrail. And what that means is a condensation, like you're when you're out in the cold and you blow your mouth and there's this condensation from the moisture in your breath and the heat. They say that there's hot air blasting out the back of the jets and it's cold in the atmosphere, and that's why you have that line from the jet. Well, in the 60s, Rolls-Royce, General Electric, they started making these really good engines. And come the mid 60s and the 70s, all the planes started getting outfit with these new engines. And so by the time we were born, all the commercial jets and whatnot have these big engines on them that are called high bypass turbofan jet engines. They are fans. So it's just like a propeller on a jet, on a plane, I'm sorry, a propeller on a plane. Whenever a propeller is spinning, it's making air to create lift over the wings to make the plane go. There's no hot air. And same with these big engines on these planes. They're getting spun to create, there's this big turbofan, and this turbofan spinning, and it's not creating hot air. There's hardly any jet fuel even being used when it's up in flight. It's their air compressor unit. It's a whole nother story, but there's not hot air being blasted out of the back. That's a total misconception. So oftentimes you'll see a plane going, nothing's coming out of the back. No matter how high it is, no matter what the humidity in the atmosphere, there's clouds or not, see planes going, nothing's going. That's normal. Mm-hmm. Okay, you'll see other planes. These are drones. These are military aircraft disguised to look like passenger jets, different stuff like that. They're expelling stuff from the back. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a short looking trail that dissipates quickly. Sometimes it's medium looking trail. Sometimes it's a longer trail. Mm-hmm. All those are just different chemicals. Sometimes the short and the medium trail and the long trail will be side by side because they'll be mixing the chemicals right there. Sometimes they'll be doing a lot of the short trails all day, and then later on in the day or the next day, they'll come out and all the long trails will stick really well because they prime the sky with the barium. I believe the shorter trails are barium. The longer trails are aluminum. Okay, and I do remember your first question. So the trails dissipate and they end up in this wispy looking kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then at times they'll hit them with ground-based stations called HARP, but HARP is all over the place now in these smaller antenna arrays. But there's these HARP is an acronym, HAARP, for Highly Active Auroral Research Program, I think, something like that. Yeah. And what they do is they use intersecting radio waves from ground-based stations. They have this football field size antenna array. It's like the size of a football field. It's got all these antennas. The antennas are like 40 feet tall. It's Tesla technology, and they'll use radio waves so when you have a microwave, these are just little radio waves, micro-sized radio waves, intersecting and hitting your food in the microwave. They're just shooting from either direction and intersecting in your food and having the water oscillate to make it heat by the intersecting microwaves, radio waves. It's all radio waves. So these radio waves are being used in the sky to intersect radio waves and clash them together and superheat the atmosphere after the chemicals have been sprayed. And then that makes them mix together easier, or make high pressure systems control the weather or whatever. So sometimes you can see these ripples in the sky. Mm-hmm. And then there's all this stuff afoot. I'm trying not to curse. So there's a lot of bad stuff going on. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff going on when you see the ripples in it. And it's like a haze, and it's these tight ripples that you'll start to, if you have a keen eye or if you looked up a few times, start to see it even on the edge of weather systems. A long line in the sky from a jet, that's pretty obvious. A big fluffy cloud that's normal, like your childhood, that's normal and nice and cool. Yeah. There's weird ones that like drip and like look like they're falling apart and stuff like that. Anything that you can't like watch and look like it's a normal cloud and maybe give it a name when it shifts into a poodle. Yeah. Anything that doesn't do stuff like that, it's probably chemicals. There's so much going on nowadays. And I realized that they do it so much so that no one questions it. It's in your face so often that it's like, wait, come on. They must be spending millions of dollars a day, Matt. It's like, yeah, actually, one of the primary organizations, whatever, spraying is NASA.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these ongoing programs. I could rattle them all off. There's a CARE program, CARE. The acronym is CARE, but they don't care. They're bad, evil guys. And that CARE program is through NASA, and it stands for the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. It's easily looked up, hidden in plain sight. You just look it all up. They have a fleet of drones and planes, and they make noctilucent clouds, fake clouds, mixing aluminum, barium, and strontium in the atmosphere, using the atmosphere as a laboratory. That's a NASA quote from one of the presentations that they give. NASA has a budget of $60 million per day, people.
Wow.
Like, just fathom that. They're not doing everything that they say. A lot of their stuff is CGI, all that's like another rabbit hole. But let's be very clear. They have a chemtrail program, okay? And they don't spend all of their money on space. They spend a lot of their budget. A lot of it's like not scrutinized. I mean, I don't think any of it's scrutinized. That's the biggest thing, is transparency and scrutiny. If we could have just that in our world today, in every facet of our lives, imagine how, that means transparency and scrutiny equals truth, right? I mean, there'd be a totally different world that we'd be in. So NASA has a chemtrail program with a near unlimited budget. Okay, there's also SRMGI, Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative is SRMGI. And you can look at that up at srmgi.gov, and that's through the CIA. There's all sorts of ongoing spraying programs with different acronyms through the government. Or, I mean, even if you want it to not rain on your wedding day, if you've got 500 grand, you can make it rain or not rain on your wedding day. These things are doable. Okay, so I'm on a little tangent. And then as far as did you say is they're falling down to the ground level? Yes, the chemicals do. They come down to the ground level. And it's, the thing is it's been going on for a while. All right. Come the mid 90s, people started to scratch their head and say, wait, what's going on? There's lines in the sky. There weren't lines in the sky before. I was like 15. I didn't care. I was listening to Nirvana or whatever I was doing. So, like my friends had long blonde hair and could like headbang, and I had like nappy hair. I couldn't headbang. I was like, I didn't fit in. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't even, it's actually, it's great not fitting in. It's great. Anyways, lines in the sky started happening. And in, for instance, Kingman, Arizona, this community of Kingman, Arizona, they came together and they said, what is this? What is going on? And they tested their blood. They tested the rainwater on days after lots of lines, and it did rain, because what goes up does come down in the rain. They tested everything they could, the soil, people do air tests and whatever. But what they did find in the rain, in their blood, these spikes of aluminum, barium, and strontium.
Right.
And like, this isn't just some crazy conspiracy conclusion, because aluminum, barium, and strontium are riddled throughout these patents. People, I give these presentations and I'm like, look, these patents started coming out right when people start seeing the lines in their family photos. The patents are for like NASA barium release rockets. And you've got these rockets that are releasing barium, and then people get the rainwater, and it's like in the trees, it's in everything. So, I mean, not that it's in everything, because then people can question that. I'm saying it's very well studied, and it comes down where they're spraying. So aluminum oxide and barium salts are patented fire accelerants. They're showing up in the water and in the trees, and they're making these trees very flammable. And then you end up with this timber box. If you watch the movie Frankenskies, you learn that the powers that be can make rain. Instead, they make fires on forests, wind storms on forest fires, continue to spray fire accelerants via chemtrails, scratch their heads, act like they don't know what's going on. They could be making rain right on top of those fires. And then guess what? Through the global media, they scare the crap out of everybody on Earth. And they say climate change is coming to get you. And then guess what the solution is? It's geoengineering, people. Like everybody breathing right now needs to know about this, because it's part of our lives. It's not just an idea that maybe is going to, it's like a whole full-on agenda. Smart meters, smart cities, climate change lockdowns, all these things. Why? It's for controlling humanity or something like that. So it's like, but you ask, are the chemicals falling down? And, then what? How are we impacted and stuff like that? Well, it messes with the soil. It hurts the tree's ability to impact water, especially aluminum.
Mhm.
It gives us Alzheimer's and dementia when aluminum ends up in our brain. But the thing is, the best thing about all of this is you get to empower yourselves with the truth. Okay, there's a saying, first the truth, makes you mad, but then it sets you free.
Mhm.
It does. You can get locked into this victimhood frequency after going down these rabbit holes, and you can get stuck there for years, like, oh my gosh, everything I do, I can't even walk outside. But then finally, you've got to come to terms with number one. Well, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but so interrupt me anytime. Number one, why are we under attack? Okay. And we are. It's a spiritual battle. Something's actually going on here. The more that I realize the world that I'm in, it's like, whoa, there's something really happening. It's a war on consciousness. And we are very powerful spiritual beings, and they want to dumb us down and make sure that we don't come into our full powers, realize who we are, come into our full potential. That should be very empowering for you. Anybody listening. It shouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm a victim. They want to poison my food. It's like when you go to the grocery store and 90% of it is all bright colored poison, you shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I can't eat Doritos. I wish I could eat Doritos. You should say, wow, I'm so thankful to be empowered with the knowledge to know what is going on here, which is like they want to dumb down your children and all these sort of things. But if you can embrace the truth and walk out of there with your organic, raw, whatever you got, and then learn, which I've got so much to say about this, right? Then you're actually flipping that victimhood and becoming like a powerful freaking warrior in this spiritual battle, and like knowing the playing field, knowing where you're at, knowing how to wade these waters of deceit, learning to laugh at the propaganda and all this stuff, and then being able to shine that light for everyone else is so important. So I have so much to say about the health and all that stuff, but I'd like to continue to answer your questions if you have any.
No, I'm just like, all of this is good. Like, just keep it coming, because I want people to understand that this is more than just like, yeah, okay, there's some grid patterns in our sky. Yeah, you can watch this, take a moment and watch this plane fly over, and then watch over the next 2 hours as it dissipates into this haze where it was a bright, sunny, clear day. And all of a sudden you don't have any sun anymore. It's just in a haze. And a lot of times it's right in front of wherever the sun is in the atmosphere, which is really interesting. But it's more than that. It's like, if this stuff's coming down on us, and every other day I have clients coming to me that their parents are suffering with dementia, and they're having all of these allergy symptoms and all of these, no one we know is really like, I feel 100%, like we're all dealing with these health implications. And is it the food? Yeah, maybe, because some of this stuff is affecting our food system. And obviously we have pesticides and glyphosate and all of that. So we're in kind of a toxic soup, but they need to be aware that this is part of it and that there's stuff we can do to mitigate it. So we're going to get to that too. But also I wanted to, since you are a stats guy, because I remember you saying that on a podcast I listened to about you. And, one part of the documentary I really liked was the guy that, this sticks out in my mind, the gentleman that does the time-lapse photos or the videos of the sky. And he mentioned it was like a hidden orchestra of unprecedented ballet in the sky, but in terms of like dangerous, And so with that, like, as far as what you think is happening that's impacting what we're seeing today with humanity, how much of what we're seeing today is from this atmospheric aerosol?
Well, it's like this octopus, and the chemtrails are one of the tentacles. But if that one tentacle didn't exist, the octopus couldn't even thrive. So it is like almost all of it, because they're all interconnected.
Right.
So the interconnectedness of it is so deep and diabolical. It's important to understand fluoride. So fluoride is, oh yeah, there's only trace amounts, it's not a big deal. No, we have to have it. We have to talk about this, and then
I'm so glad you are too.
Afterwards, we need to talk about mineralizing, and we can talk about chelation too. But more so, I think keeping your terrain intact. Like, people want to take some sort of clay or something to get it out of them. It's like, make yourself healthy and you won't be absorbing it. You know, that's really it. People want to be unhealthy, drink the beer, watch football, eat Doritos, but then like just take the shot at the end of the day and be like, oh, I'm good. No, you need to live the life and walk the walk and talk the talk. So fluoride is a toxic chemical. It's never been proven, ever been proven to be effective at whatever the claim is. It does not make your teeth strong. It does the opposite. It does the exact opposite. My ex-girlfriend, they lived in Korea. Her daughter's half Korean and she has fluorosis because of the baby food or whatever. It was full of fluoride.
Right.
What do you call it? I guess it's called baby formula, right? It's full of fluoride. And I guess the mom didn't know because in Korean or whatever. And so she has fluorosis so bad that if we had like ice cream or anything that had fluoride in it, her bones were aching all night long. She's like crying all night. So I like learned from this as this like barometer from this girl. And like milk is full of it because it's in the feed, right? Like dairy is full of it. Anyways, what is fluoride? It is a toxic byproduct of aluminum smelting. When Alcoa or any big aluminum company goes and melts aluminum down to make aluminum cans, aluminum whatever for aluminum cars or whatever, they want aluminum for stuff, or to spray in the sky, whatever they want their aluminum for. A toxic, hazardous byproduct of the industrial waste, like after they melt the aluminum, the chemicals that come off that like broke away from being bonded to the aluminum when the aluminum was out of the ground. Now they have this pure aluminum they can work with, and fluoride is part of the aluminum. It was chemically bonded to it, okay? It is melted off in this chemical process to refine the aluminum, and now you have a toxic byproduct, toxic waste. Before they would put it in bladders, store it underground, dispose of it in some way. In the country of China, they dispose of it when they make their aluminum. This huge country, all these people, they just dispose of it. Maybe they give it to us oftentimes. They do not use it for anything. It doesn't absorb to your teeth. It doesn't do what they say, okay? And you drink it in your water. How's it absorbing in your teeth? It goes in your stomach, wreaks havoc on your body that way. It doesn't get into your teeth. It doesn't do what they say. Like, let's just make that perfectly clear. There's been studies on rats and all these sorts of things. There's like children. There's a Harvard study that says that children's IQs go down from taking it.
Okay? Affects the thyroid too.
Oh, it messes the thyroid up totally bad. And well, I want to do a really quick thyroid plug. I have an EMF protective clothing line called Spero, S-P-E-R-O.
About that.
And Spero is a Latin word for hope. S-P-E-R-O is a Latin word. It means hope. And Spero gear, S-P-E-R-O gear is the clothing line. And I have a thyroid protector. Oh, nice. So there's this like it's called a gator, G-A, like with the E-R. Either way, it doubles as a headband, and I don't do any EMF. I'm wired right now, and I have a flip phone, and but the thyroid is so sensitive, and if you're always on your smartphone, you need to protect it. I recommend taking breaks from your smartphone, but if you're having issues with your thyroid, I recommend protecting it. Check out the EMF clothing line. Anyways, please, because you said it, and people don't recognize how important that is for so many different things.
Absolutely.
So the fluoride, it comes off of the aluminum, but it came from that. So then we get the fluoride in our systems from, I don't have it in this is one of the reasons why I moved to Ashland, Oregon. They don't have it in their water supply.
Nice.
Okay? They also don't have smart meters. They have their own electrical company. It's a whole another thing. And that's another reason why I wanted to be here. Some communities, they voted it out. Nobody lost their teeth, you know. A lot of communities have voted it out. And then the previous community, I was going to fight really hard to get it out. And I ended up moving, but it's very easy to at least try to put it on the ballot or something, because so many communities have done it for budgetary reasons or health reasons or blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it wouldn't be like, you wouldn't be the first person to be doing it. Like, it's an amazing opportunity for activism to get it on the ballot, to try to get it out of your town. And I'm telling you, so many places have done it. So we get it through our toothpaste. I just spent actually $2,000 on a fluoride meter. I'm going to be doing little videos and like measuring kombucha and stuff. Cause like, what do we know about our yerba mate? We're just grabbing at the store. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's in tap waters. It's in the yerba mates. It's in your Budweiser. It's in some toothpaste. Get fluoride free toothpaste, people, please.
Yeah,
read it.
absolutely.
Read your labels. This is the most important thing that I ever did in my entire life. Is one of my friend's older sisters. She was kind of cute, so I probably listened to her more. But either way, I'm telling you, she told me, she said, Matt, because I had heartburn, I was totally unhealthy. I smoked Newport Lights and drank malt liquor. I was like not healthy guy when I was in my 20s. Yeah. And I had really bad heartburn. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And she said, read the ingredients on what you buy at the store when you buy it to eat it.
Yeah.
I was like 24. And I was like, huh? And she goes, if I can't read it, I don't eat it. That slowly changed my entire life. Okay. There's a chemical called BHT.
Right.
It's like this huge abbreviation. It is literally in it's the active ingredient in oral herpes creams. And it's like this disgusting thing. And it's a preservative in your bugles and your chips and your cereal and stuff, man. Like you don't want BHT in your food. And the reason why it's abbreviated is because it'd be this freaking long on there. Nobody would want to eat that thing on the freaking ingredients list. So they make it all secretive. So fluoride, it gets in your system, you guys. We get it in our system. Try to not get it in your system. It would be like the best thing. And imagine how empowering this is, because what I'm about to tell you is you get the fluoride out and now you start to become immune to chemtrails. What? How is that possible? So fluoride is nano level, right? It's really, really small. It gets in your brain really easily because it's been refined and melted off the aluminum. It's really small. Okay, so it builds up in your brain. And it does make you a little like lower your IQ, and it makes rats dumb and children dumb in studies and stuff like that. But it's this, and it's genius on the side of the evildoers, because what they do is they get this fluoride built up in the people's brains, and then they come along and they spray aluminum, and they put aluminum in the deodorant. Okay, aluminum in the deodorant. I have this book about aluminum. Which I bought like crazy books recently because I'm like worried about book burnings and truth. And I actually challenge anybody to have a better truth book library on earth than me, even bookstores.
I have.
So I'm like serious. This isn't even, I've got multiple bookshelves. So check it out. There's a book, Conversations with Aluminum Atom or something. It's by this PhD doctor dude. He claims that every single breast cancer case is aluminum building up in the lymphs. And then people just putting their freaking cell phone next to it, man, and microwaving the aluminum, or talking on your cell phone, you're still microwaving that aluminum. So you're literally putting aluminum in their microwave in your breast tissue. That's how these breast cancers are forming. So you got aluminum in your deodorant, aluminum in some of your food or whatever, aluminum in the air that you're breathing. Now the aluminum is in your bloodstream, but that aluminum is not as small as the fluoride. It has a problem crossing the blood-brain barrier. Oh, also aluminum in every injection, that it's an adjuvant in all these injections, right? Those things that are going around. So the aluminum gets in your system and it wants to cross the blood-brain barrier, but we've got a healthy blood-brain barrier at the age of 18 months. So anybody out there who wants to maybe they're on the fence about injecting their babies, wait until they're 18 months, because then they have a blood-brain barrier to protect their brains. All these things before then are no bueno, in my opinion. Okay, I think people should at least just know about the development of the blood-brain barrier if they're going to be a parent. Okay,
absolutely.
So anyways, after the age of a year and a half, you have this blood-brain barrier that protects your brain from the rest of the blood in your body that can get, toxic stuff in it or whatever. So the fluoride will actually pull the aluminum from the rest of your blood into your brain, because it attracts it. It wants to bond back to its mommy because it got melted off by Alcoa, right? So it gets these two things pull in your brain, the aluminum and the fluoride, and then they bond chemical bonds, and they're little explosions. Don't want to mix mercury with that. So if you've got these amalgam fillings, you should get them removed. You don't want mercury in your life. You don't want those twirly light bulbs in your world either. Okay. Avoid the mercury, because I've got a video that I share on my social media of mercury and aluminum mixing. and it's like a little drop and a little drop, and then it turns into this like 2 foot tall like monster. It's really not what you want to have been going on in your brain.
Scary.
So that makes perfect sense how people are getting freaking Alzheimer's. They're not educated. They're fluoriding, they go to the dentist. Oh yeah, give me fluoride. Oh yeah. And they put aluminum in their pores, where that's your detox mechanism, people. You're supposed to be detoxing through your pores. I go to the sauna like maybe too much. I don't know if it's too much. I go to the sauna a lot. I've been doing it ever since before I even learned about chemtrails.
Yeah.
And I went to a bodies exhibit when I was like when I was like 21 or 20. I went to a bodies exhibit.
Yeah, I remember those.
And they had a person who was just their skin. People who'd given their bodies to science. The skin is an organ. It is a big organ. Use it, people. Please, you can get it working for you. You can sweat out these toxins. Like, go to the sauna, push yourself, do a cold plunge, read up on Wim Hof. And I want to now talk about minerals. So I've been learning a lot about diet and mineralization. And so first, when I started talking about chemtrails and making the movie and hosting the conferences, I hosted a few really big conferences and got all the supposed chemtrail activists together, and everybody on all the shows, they asked me, well, what can we do? What can we do? What I would first say is pass out some chemtrail flyers, wake someone up, Then I learned about chelation, and I was like, oh, spirulina, chlorella, try to get the toxins out. Yeah, that's all right. But now I'm back to this terrain, your body. We need to take care of our bodies the best that we can.
Absolutely.
And it's through a lot of it I'm learning is through bioavailable stuff. So we want to be able to ingest these things that we absorb. All right. Like if you've ever grown plants, you can't, like the soil, for instance, you give it some sort of fertilizers and stuff like that. Sometimes it takes like 2 years for the stuff to break down. I had a garden, I put in all this organic stuff, and the garden really didn't show the nutrients that I gave it until like 2 years. Took 2 years for that soil to break it all down and the plants to bioabsorb it. So if that plant was like really needing what most plants only need NPK, it's like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, to take them all the way through bloom. And you've got a squash or something that does not have very many minerals in it because the only nutrients you gave it was nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's got trace minerals in the soil. So anyways, say you've got a plant that's like nitrogen deficient and you're giving it some like nitrogen, it might take years for it to be able to biodegrade and be bioavailable for the plant. So maybe you give it like chicken poop that has nitrogen in it. Well, it'll fry the plant. It'll literally kill it. So you got to wait for it to be bioavailable. When you eat foods, the nutrients need to be bioavailable for you to be able to like absorb them. So I've been telling people recently, like, just throw those freaking synthetic vitamins in the trash.
Yeah.
Those vitamins, A to Z, whatever, that when in the 80s, when I was growing up, people were like all raving about these things. These vitamins were made in a lab. They don't have the enzymes, like they're not ready to be absorbed by your body. You're not really absorbing any of those things, really. It's probably bad for you anyways. It's probably bad on your organs. It's probably worse for you to be taking those things than to not. So I'm just going to go on a little enzyme tangent, and then I'll segue into minerals, and then we'll see where we're at. What do we got? Okay. So I've learned a lot about enzymes recently, digestive enzymes. And you probably know a lot about this, but I'll just say it. I've been eating raw everything. I've been eating as raw as I possibly can. And come to find out, like getting like Amish raw, uninoculated, cow meat is pretty important. Like the lipids, the fats in the cows will store toxins. So you don't want any injections in your cow meat and stuff. But if I do get like a steak that I'll eat raw locally, grass-fed, I will couple it with raw Amish uninoculated dairy that has the lipids that can encapsulate any of the toxins. It's this whole thing I've been learning about. And I thought I was lactose intolerant for a decade, sister. If I ate the cheese, I was sick immediately. I was like, I can't do any milk, nothing. I've now learned about like A1 versus A2 cows, homogenization and not, pasteurization and not. It went to Bouchant, pasture, all these things. Like the pasteurization raw is where it's at, and then even like meat. So every single thing that we eat that's raw, it has these digestive live enzymes in it.
Right.
And they're like these little living like codes. So our body gets those little living codes in the plant or the animal that we eat that's raw, that hasn't been heated over like 115 degrees or 110 degrees or something. And our body knows how to digest it, how to assimilate it, how to like get the minerals out, how to like absorb the nutrients. If the enzymes have been damaged by cooking it too much or by cooking it in general or whatever, our body doesn't recognize it. And then our pancreas has to create enzymes to process it. And then we can't absorb the minerals as well. Okay. And we don't get as much of the minerals that we need. I've learned about like Epsom salts and magnesium, and the Epsom salts are actually synthetic, and you got to get the magnesium flakes.
Right.
The flakes are the way to go.
Yep.
And then for baking soda, the Arm & Hammer, it says it's sodium bicarbonate, but there's a difference between different brands. Arm & Hammer is mined. Sorry, take that back. Arm & Hammer is not mined. It's toxic. And I was actually getting sick anytime I had any of it, and even just like a tiny trace amount. The Arm & Hammer is made in a lab. It's synthetic. Just learning these certain things. You like honor the truth with integrity 100%, and then you start to honor your intakes. So you can get Bob's Red Mill for your baking soda. You can get magnesium flakes. The magnesium sulfate is the bad one because the sulfate releases sulfuric acid. So those magnesium salts, they're actually pretty toxic. Learned that the hard way myself. So anyways, sorry, a little tangent. I just wanted to get all that out so people can hear it.
Love it.
Yeah. So getting my diet in shape and learning how to like detox and kind of pull out the bad stuff, it's been one hell of a journey. A couple of years ago, long story, I ended up in the hospital with a broken arm. The arm was broken really bad, so I had to get surgery. And after getting out of the hospital, after 1 week, I had this whole healing journey. Like I'm still pretty numb in my left hand, and it's been 2 years. And I got plates and all this stuff. And I was given so many drugs while I was in the hospital, do the surgeries, fentanyl, the morphine, the oxys, and you name it. So all those pharmaceuticals, they actually disrupt your body's ability to uptake minerals. Yeah. So I couldn't hardly heal or put on any muscle or even just heal my little broken arm. Like once I got out of the cast, I wanted to put on some like muscle or something, but nothing would stick. My body's mineral uptake receptors were blocked from the opiates that I was given in the hospital. Cool. When I got out of the hospital, I was supposed to get a prescription of oxys. I didn't even do it. I did not want to do any more
Good
of it.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was a journey. You know, I got to experience pain instead. So, but I did it and it was great. And I'm alive to tell the story. So what I learned is our bodies need about 104 minerals every day to do its normal functions. That 104 mineral list has things on it that I've never even heard of. Einsteinium and random words that I'm like, these are minerals that my body needs. Okay. I'm eating something like an orange. I'm probably getting like 3 of those things. Right. Mm-hmm. So I started to learn and try to figure it out. And first I came across mineral supplements, but what I learned is I was basically eating rocks, and the rocks weren't bioavailable. These things needed to be plant-based. Mm-hmm. And so what I ended up coming across was Irish sea moss. Mm-hmm. And the Irish sea moss has bladderwrack and burdock in it, and they're just wildcrafted. It's in a pill form, so they have been dried. So I'm kind of being hypocritical on my enzyme thing. Okay. And my raw thing. So I do kind of bounce around. Like I will eat cooked food. It's like my metabolism, and when I'm eating just raw and raw honey and all this stuff, my metabolism is through the roof, and I'm like hungry after like a short amount of time. So I'm realizing carbs equals cooked food, and they burn off slower and all this stuff. It's a process. Learning it all is something. So the Irish sea moss, it has 104 bioavailable minerals in it when you take it with the burdock and the bladderwrack. And all those minerals that I kept taking every single day, it gave me the ability to build my bones and my muscles back and all this stuff because it was plant-based. So I started to really learn about taking care of my body the best that I could. And it's not through popping like synthetic pills or you know, what the mainstream says. It's about getting in shape, eating simple, eating whole foods, not eating stuff out of a package, like literally taking all of that food out of your life that's processed and replacing it with like orange, potato, squash, you know, like I took bread out of my life and now bread makes me sick, man. I'm sorry to
Right.
say it. I wish that I could just have a bagel, but the other day I did and it didn't work out for me. So I'm refining myself and I'm becoming like a more in tune spiritual kind of being. But also, guess what? I get to convey these messages on to everybody as I learn and learn about minerals and how and what they do and such, you know?
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack there in what you said, because it is. It's like that's what I've been trying to convey to my clients that think, well, I've been doing this, gluten-free for 30 days. Shouldn't I be better? And I was like, no, this is one step. This is one thing in an orchestra of things, a potpourri of aspects of your life we're going to work on. So yeah, it's these tiny little things, getting more sleep and going gluten-free and not eating processed, like you said, and finding the right nutrients that are raw materials for your body. And then we need to shift gears and talk about our environment, because it's not just the atmospheric sprays, it's also, this 5G that's come out. So during the last maybe 6 months of this pandemic, I noticed more spraying towards the end of it. And then I also noticed that there were more towers up than had previously been before COVID. Now, I would love to know from your understanding and your stats and your information, like what about this 5G? Is there some correlation with what's going on in our skies with 5G? And is 5G dangerous? Because I've talked about it at length, at nauseum to some people in my podcast, but I want to hear from you, because you've got these people on their 5G phones now, wearing their AirPods in between their brain, living in Wi-Fi soup. I mean, even the woods have Wi-Fi now, because I got onto my husband the other day because he went up and put up game cameras where he goes hunting, and now he gets text messages on his phone of the deer that are in that specific area. And I'm like, you mean to tell me you put a Wi-Fi game camera in the woods where I go to bow hunt and I want to get away from technology? I want to be out with the animals, and now you're radiating my deer, so they're going to be less potent for me to eat because I love deer meat. And so anyway, it was a whole big thing, but he was like, oh my gosh, roll his eyes, because that's what he would do. But he's a good guy. He's a good bow hunter too. But it's this premise of like, it's our environment. It's not just our foods. It's not just these raw materials. They definitely are a piece, but let's talk about this correlation, maybe, if there is, with the geoengineering and the 5G.
Yeah, I could talk about that for a long time. Like I said, I mean, I'm in a very unique position, being that I own this EMF protective clothing company. To answer your question, yes, very much so. If
Okay.
we end up with aluminum in our bodies, and then there's an increase in microwave radiation all around us,
We're like
that
an
aluminum
antenna.
is, yeah, we're like antennas. But
Yeah.
also, for instance, the Navy, there's so many studies. The Navy did 3,000 studies on EMF radiation in the mid 70s. One of them was they put ink in rats' brains and then exposed them to low level oscillating EMF radiation, which is what we have all around us. EMF radiation makes the blood brain barrier permeable. It makes the blood brain barrier leak. So the
Yeah.
dye that was in the rats' brains went all through their body when they're exposed to EMF radiation. So the 5G does so much, and it interacts with the the chemtrails. One thing is, okay, they've got the chemtrails, they keep trying to get them to stick in the sky. Well, if they've got more microwave antennas, they can elevate them with that, but also they work in conjunction with one another. If you've got a more metallicized, if you've got a more metallic air, then that 5G frequency can go farther. Because the big problem with the 5G frequency is it can't go very far, really. It shouldn't be able to travel more than like a city block. The carrier wave that they're utilizing is more of a weapon than the telecom, and then like it's a weapon. It shouldn't be used for data transfer. So I'll get into this because everyone should know, and I'll try to make it short. So EMF radiation is light. It's radio frequency, but it's light. It's light that we can't see. And telecom agencies have learned how to carry data on light that we can't see. And the light has different properties. Basically, it has its own size. So a really big light wave that they carry their data on, they can't carry as much information, but they can carry it much further. The reason why you can't carry much information on a large carrier wave is because it can't do as many waves per second. More waves per second, or more waves, yeah, basically per second is what we'll use. More waves that can come by per second, the more data that can be on all that waves, more information, if that makes sense. So AM radio waves, they travel really far, as we know, and they're 100 feet tall. They go through buildings, they go through us, they don't impact us. FM radio waves are 10 feet tall, and they go through everything still, and we don't need a FM antenna on our block to be able to get the signal. Wi-Fi, 4G, 3G, that's a much smaller signal. Wi-Fi can't go too far, but it's still like a foot tall. It oscillates, but it's still a relatively larger signal compared to 5G even. 5G is measured in millimeters, and we're talking about the height of the wave, like each crest, if this is making sense. Yeah. So then 5G is measured in millimeters. A penny is 1.5 millimeters thick, and 5G is in this bandwidth. So like the telecom agencies, they basically buy different spectrums and bandwidths to work with. And now this 5G one is being utilized, and it involves data being transferred on these carrier waves that are super small, measured in just like a few millimeters. Okay. And because they're so small, they can carry a lot of data, but because they're so small, they cannot go very far. But if the air is more metallic, it can conduct more energy, and they can travel more in that medium more than our regular air. So that seems like something. Also, because the data can't go very far on these smaller carrier waves, every cell phone now that's 4G LTE, or even every iPhone, I'm thinking, is being turned into this, and every 5G phone. 4G LTE, which is any 4G phone, is being turned into 5G. 4G LTE just stands for long-term evolution, which means 5G. So they're segueing these into 5G, not really telling you. And what they are now little antennas. They're little cell towers. Yeah. So instead of your phone sending off your data or trying to connect to the tower to do your voice call or whatever, it's just connecting to the next closest phone, because the signal can't go very far. And so all the data is getting pushed to the next phone, to the next phone, to the next phone, in this like spoken wheel mesh system, where the next phone is just trying to push this much stronger signal to the next closest tower. So all these towers are getting put up because they need to be closer now, but all the phones are emitting way more radiation. And what I've realized is not even like, oh, it's 10 times more radiation than before. It's a completely new, completely different type of radiation than before. Okay. Yeah. If I was to give it a number, I'd say it's like 100 times more radiation, but it's not, it's a different type. It's like humanity has never been exposed to this ever. So I hope that made sense. I've told that story a bunch, and now I'm going to tell another story that I've told a bunch that I have to get off my chest, and then we can wrap it up. But this is really important. So because I'm in a unique position. So I've got this EMF clothing line. I make silver woven, I make fabric made out of woven silver and make that into clothing and hats and stuff. I've got like 30 items now. I hope that people can check me out on Instagram. I'm SPERO, Sparrow Gear. Yeah. Sparrowgear.com and all that. So I make men's underwear and baby blankets and all that sort of stuff. And it deflects the EMF from radio waves, AM, FM, 5G, 4G, all that stuff, Wi-Fi. And that's bouncing off of the silver because it's got certain properties. The silver's got this density to it that the light just bounces off of it basically. And so it doesn't get to your skin when you're wearing the clothing, and by it not getting to your skin, it doesn't accumulate and absorb into you, because the 5G, when it hits you, it absorbs. And the biggest problem with 5G is because of its size, it's going to be very problematic with pregnant women. Those pregnant women who are having children, the children that are being conceived and born and raised in a 5G environment, they're going to have some issues, because when you're growing up in this 5G environment, you've got this little tiny wave hitting you, it's going to impact your fertility, because your eggs are really small, ovaries are really small, these small organs in our bodies. It's actually designed to do this. So it seems like we should learn to protect ourselves and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, does 5G impact our health? Yes, very much so. And I'm a firm believer that all of the nonsense that we've been dealing with over the past 2.5 years has been not what they say. And it has been more it has been more 5G than anything. And I don't just make these like random assumptions. Like I said, statistics, there's correlation, there's causation, and listen to, please, the unique position that I'm in. So in 2018, I came out with my company. 2018, I figured that I would make these phone bags. So I came out with these silver fabric phone bags, 8 colors. You put your phone inside this, it's called a Faraday bag, named after Michael Faraday, made Faraday cages. You put your phone in this little phone bag and you get no signal. Mm-hmm. It's just like turning your phone off almost, but still, like, people worry about their privacy even when the phone is off. And then they don't know, is the phone off or whatever. There's reasons why people like it. Trust me. A lot of people are like, why would I want the bag? Anyways, people do like the bag. You put it in your bedside or whatever, and you know your phone is not doing anything. The alarm will still work, but no signal gets through the silver fabric. So I started selling the bags in 2018 on 9/19/2019, September 19th, 2019. I went on this big radio show, Coast to Coast, a couple million listeners, really sold a bunch of the phone bags, got them all out all over the world. And I was really trying to push them, and I made hats, baseball caps as well. So that's all I had at that point. And my supplier also, they were selling the phone bags. Okay. I was selling thousands. They were selling hundreds of thousands, especially in Israel, Japan, Korea, Germany, China. Okay. These phone bags sold all over the world. And up until March 2019, all of the phone bags worked everywhere on Earth, meaning any phone that was out, you put it in the phone bag and it won't work inside. No text, no tracking, no tracing, no phone calls, nothing gets through. No Wi-Fi, nothing. Okay. So all of a sudden, March 2020, sorry. I don't know if I said 2019 before. I meant to say March 2020, we got locked down. Okay. All of a sudden, we're in our houses and everyone's like, what's going on? The whole world's on lockdown. People started messaging me, Matt. I mean, I give my business card with my orders usually. And so, or I used to. And so people have my cell phone. People are contacting me. Boom, 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 boom. People were even really, really upset. You sold me a fraudulent product. I'm like, what's going on? I didn't even know. What's up? Like, this phone bag worked for the past 6 months. Phone bag worked for the past 2 weeks. Phone bag worked for the past 2 years. Whatever it was, everybody's phone bag worked, and then they weren't working.
Wow.
And I was like, what the heck? What gives? So I didn't know what the heck. And I started giving people refunds, trying to figure it out, contact my supplier. And they're like, we're hearing this from other people. Let's make them double layered. So I'm like, okay, that's got to work. 2 layers of the fabric that worked before. So I make double layered bags, which I still have in 8 colors. And I gave everybody that was mad new phone bags all over the world, not just the United States. So then their phone bags worked, and they put their phone in the bag and they got no signal. I kid you not. Come Omicron variant, right when the Omicron variant came out in like October of that year, the double layer bag stopped working. Okay. And it was just for certain smartphones, especially iPhones across the board, like iPhone 8 even. I was like, what? All those iPhones started becoming part of this network to make 5G work. The Verizon is on this low band. There's 3 types of 5G: high band, low band, mid band. It's different spectrums that they bought in the broadband spectrums. Verizon is like the most potent, and they had to have these iPhones like basically Trojan horse ready to be turned on to a whole new bandwidth. And people, like these families of like 5 people in the family, they all got the new iPhone. They all of a sudden come down with this new, you know what, and everyone's, you know, believing the official narrative. All right. So I was like, what am I going to do? I tried to make triple layered bags. They still didn't even work. So I had to make triple layered bags with a layer of copper nickel. So now I have a layer of copper nickel fabric which is like gangbusters, sandwiched with 2 layers of silver, now 3 layers of fabric, but utilizing 3 different metals. And now you put your freaking 5G iPhone in there or whatever, and it doesn't get any signal. So I had to go through all of that because these phones were incrementally being cranked up so much that people were losing their hair, losing their taste buds, not be like all these different range of symptoms. Every last one of them very easily can be by a clinician can be deemed low-level radiation sickness symptoms.
Right.
Okay. Some people are like, this is not going away. And
Mm-hmm.
they're walking around with that thing in their pocket all day long, man. And their doctor's like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, weird, it's not going away. And maybe I need another this and give me this. And it's like, own your terrain. Your terrain is not just the food you take in, it's your media intake.
Mm-hmm.
It's the frequency of the stuff around you. It's honoring your grounding. And yeah, maybe not putting Wi-Fi out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the trail cams are cool. You know, I like when they catch like a cool cat or something like that. We have mountain lions around here.
Oh my gosh. So like, okay, so I have to share with you that I haven't tried your products because I was getting my Faraday stuff and my EMF protection from another company. And for a while it was working, and I have meters and I test it. And around that same time that you're talking about, it's not just your products, it was theirs too, because I had this little fanny pack that I would like stick my phone in, and it was gonna, you roll it up and it's EMF free, and I tested it and it worked. The fanny pack like died right during that time that you're saying that everything went down and nothing was working, because I would test periodically just to make sure, because you have this thing right against your belly, you know. And this thing stopped working, I'm just going to throw it away because I'm upset that I'm not protecting myself. So I just got into the habit of, I just turn my phone off unless I need to use it. And I have a freaking old iPhone, like iPhone 6, and so I won't upgrade for that reason. Like, I'm just going to stay old, and when it dies I'll go back to a flip phone, but I just keep it off. But I have to try now your new bag, now that I'm finding out about it, because yeah, it's so crazy that you said that, because I just thought it was defective. I never even reached out to the company and said anything because I thought it was just my device. So this is so fascinating what you're talking about. Now, like you said, we're going to wrap up here, and I'm going to have everything we've talked about, your products, your company, in the show notes and things like that, and where people can find Frankenskies. And I know you're working on a second one, which is super exciting. But as we wrap up, so if you could give the listeners, because you've given them so many tools, but if you could give like a summary of the best things they could do right now to protect themselves from what's happening in our atmosphere, as well as like this exposure to constant EMF, because I think, like you said, more people are sensitive to this radio wave sickness than they realize. More of the symptoms I see coming into my practice, I'm telling people, I don't care what you eat, turn your phone off when you're not using it, turn your Wi-Fi off when you're not using it, get out of using Bluetooth in your car. And they're like, just tell me what to eat. And I'm like, no, this is more important. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear from you just a summary of what you would love the listeners to do to mitigate some of this as we wrap up.
Yes, I would love to. Firstly, I would like to say that all of the EMF companies out there, I love and support all of them. And OMG, what they have to go through,
I'm sure.
because nobody saw this coming. And when you go and you're trying to deal with a company overseas, I deal with so many different companies. They all want you to buy 10,000 things. Like, you have to they want to stop their factory and make your thing. You know, they're not just going to make 100 for you. So you got to buy 10,000 of those things or whatever. And then they stop working. Oh my gosh, that's not cool. That's so unfair. And so it's been quite the nightmare. And I've definitely got some gray hairs, and I really feel for those EMF companies out there. So please, people, don't give them a hard time, and, you know, try to support them. Me also, but also them. Like, there's other EMF companies out there, and my goal is that I want everybody to flourish. A rising tide lifts all ships.
Right.
So the more that we become aware, and the knowledge and education is there, then all these, you know, EMF companies can thrive, and maybe even like freaking Adidas can start making EMF stuff or something. I don't know or care, but I want people to be protected and educated, especially the children. And so, for a takeaway, and there's a lot of stuff that we talked about, And if people still have fluoride in their toothpaste, don't just use it until it's done. Throw it in the
No.
throw it in the trash. Those
Right
earbuds,
now.
I don't care how much those earbuds cost. They communicate through your brain. They are
Yes.
communicating information not just down to your iPad or your phone, or your iPod or whatever, your MP3 player. They talk back and forth through your brain. I don't care if you feel it over time, you're being very manipulated, and minerals are being messed with, and your brain
Yeah.
waves are being messed with. If you learn about binaural beats and how sensitive our brain
Mhm.
waves are, it's very, very real stuff. So this is my takeaway. This is what I want people to walk away with, please. Well, firstly, we're spiritual beings and we need to learn and honor that. And it's not just like this happen random thing that we're here on earth. Like we're here to honor the truth and like lead the way
Mhm.
for the next generation. So let's do that and be that. But also we're very much electrical beings.
Absolutely.
In knowing that, you can read the book The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg,
One of my
but
favorites.
also um, honoring the fact that we're electrical beings, beings of rhythm. Okay, if you don't think you're a being of rhythm and frequency and vibration, try just not sleeping for a week. Just try to not own that vibration and that rhythm of your life. Like
Sure.
we go up and down with the sun. We are very much down to our cells, electrical beings of frequency. Okay, so honor that. Meaning, go out into nature, take
Hmm.
off your shoes, sit down. You don't have to take your shoes off, but get out there and get tuned into that Schumann resonance of 7.8 hertz. That is what our body is supposed to be tuned into. We're
Yes.
bombarded with all this stuff everywhere we go. You go to a coffee shop for 30 minutes, your biorhythm is thrown off. You get under an LED light for 10 minutes, or even 10 seconds. All these things that were around, the light bulbs, the frequencies, everybody's music, everything, pop music going through your head. I recommend getting out there, go for a walk, find some balance in your life that is nature,
Mhm.
whether it's a weekend hike, weekend camping, getting out there, going for a walk without your phone,
Yeah.
even with in silence, without any music going through your freaking headphones. Just get out there and honor that you need to shed the dirty electricity that's getting built up in your body.
Yeah.
So it builds up from everything around us, even your outlets, dirty electricity. Guess what? It's not grounding because we're wearing rubber shoes. We're
Hmm.
not out in some like conductive wet grass. We're not standing in the ocean waves or stream every single day or whatever it is. But we got to realize that this dirty electricity builds up in our bodies, and it ends up actually making our biorhythms off. All of our organs are a certain frequency. Our brain is a certain frequency. Our heart, everything is in concert. And the more that it gets thrown off, the more that we're susceptible to absorbing toxins from our environment and all this other stuff, because we're not owning our terrain. The healthier we are, the less we're absorbing the toxins. I didn't really finish up on the minerals thing. And so I will. So that was my kind of closing thing, but I want to say one more thing about the minerals. The point about the minerals is when you've got bioavailable minerals in your system, you're eating really well. You're eating fruit, you're eating like good foods. Maybe you're taking that sea moss that has those 104 bioavailable plant-based minerals. Then when your body's not mineral deficient, you're not trying to get all those minerals from everything out there in the world. Okay. So say you're not magnesium and you're not calcium deficient, then you're not absorbing the air trying to get that, and you're not absorbing all this stuff trying to get that. You're up to speed on your minerals. You're a healthy,
Hmm.
happy human. But if you are mineral deficient, you're absorbing radioactive cadmium from the chemtrails, and it's going in your bones because your bones are so depleted. They need something so bad that your body's like, oh, I think that that's the mineral that I need. No, it's not. It's actually toxins. So you could be ingesting even like toxic air, toxic water, toxic food. But if you're up to speed on your minerals, your body's just going to reject it and not absorb it. So own your health and honor yourself, and know that it's like a daily process. You're not just going to go out and run if you haven't been running.
Hmm.
Start small and keep on going. I've been doing that myself. Like my broken arm was so frail, and I just got like a little weight, and I'm not huge or anything, but I'm like slowly getting to where I'm happy with my endurance and my biorhythms. And like you said about getting good sleep, it's so important. And I even think it's important to spend time alone. I know a lot of parents out there never get that, but if you can be alone even 10 minutes a day, one day a week, whatever you can do to settle your mind and just process your thoughts, your day, your childhood, whatever you got to do to just get grounded and be in your body. It's really important to honor yourself, and that you have a spirit and a body, and these two things need to kind of work together in conjunction with one another to be the best you can be.
Well said. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I put magnesium on virtually every client. I'm just like, take it until you get loose stools, because it is so powerful to all the enzymatic processes of your body, and especially mitigating EMF, like you said. So, oh, that's so powerful. Plus the alone and the downtime. Like people are go, 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 and we need downtime. We need time in nature, away from devices, away from being inside all the time. So I love all of that. So I'm gonna have everything in the show notes. One final question I ask all my listeners is, Audrey Hepburn has a quote that is, "I believe that every day should have at least one exquisite moment." Will you please share with me your one exquisite moment today?
Today's exquisite moment. Okay. Well, I mean, does everyone say being on the show with you? Because it's been really nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
But I'll try to say something that wasn't that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Okay. So today was it was a big day for me, because I had this show on my calendar since late July, mid-July,
Yeah,
or whatever, when we
yeah.
were talking about it. And I woke up pretty kind of groggy, and I've been on like 600 radio shows. And usually, you know what I do? Is I go get a cappuccino. That's what I do, man. And I went to that same place and got a juice, because it's called Raw. They do both. So it's like a juice bar and coffee. And I didn't
Nice.
and they're like, cappuccino, Matt. And I was like, no, I don't do that anymore. I'm here in the morning to get a juice. And I got it, and it was really nice.
Mhm.
And I had some Irish sea moss and a little bite of chocolate, and I felt great. And I didn't need coffee for your show. I don't need coffee to talk to you. So this was the biggest hurdle thus far, and now it's just like far in the past, now that I was able to cross this show off the calendar and not be caffeinated.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We
Sorry,
just
we
need
can
to
talk
have a
forever.
whole nother podcast, because this is so good.
That's
You have a wealth of information I know that you can share. And you guys start with his documentary, check that out. And then we will definitely, if you're open to it, do this again so we can talk more, especially when you launch your second one. I'd love to be one of your first to promote it. So yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely going to check out your Faraday bags as well, because I'm excited about that. Thank you so much. And we'll do this again, Matt.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.
Hey guys, are you in the Midwest? Are you in the East Coast? Are you in Brazil? Are you in Asia? It doesn't matter where you are. I would love to work with you as your nutritionist. And so just to let you know, I offer nutrition consulting worldwide. You can work with me anywhere. I have clients all over the world, and I love to spend time over the internet with each one of them, figuring out their specific needs. So your specific needs, what deficiencies are you having? What symptoms are you dealing with daily that we can address for you? So that's what I, as a nutrition detective, like to get to the bottom of. I ask you a ton of questions. We meet over Zoom or over FaceTime, whatever is convenient for you, and we discuss all of your specific needs. If you would like to work with me, just shoot me an email, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. That's getfit, GETFITWITHJODELLE@gmail.com, and let's set up a 15-minute free call for you, just to see if I'm a good fit for you as a nutrition therapy practitioner. Again, email me, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com, and let's get you set up feeling better, lose that unwanted weight that you have going on, lose those symptoms that you have hanging around, and optimize your health as best we can.
Biotoxin illness is a real thing, and today a lot of people are dealing with stuff called Lyme or mold exposure, also parasites. All of these toxins are infiltrating our system because of the system that we're living in. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of options out there that are quick and effective to get rid of these toxins that are infiltrating us, except for something that I am getting so excited about, which is called the milk cleanse. So you're definitely going to want to check out this 8-day program. It's just a simple cleanse you can do. It's a simple mono diet that requires no effort on your part except to find your favorite source of milk. And side note here, even if you're dairy intolerant or lactose intolerant, you can still achieve health through this milk cleanse, because there is some really great research out there showing that a mono diet of milk actually can help you develop a tolerance for dairy. So I'd like you to go to themilkcleanse.com and check it out. There's so much great research there. I myself have done it repeatedly now with great success. Actually, at the tail end of my mold exposure now, I did this 8-day milk cleanse, and 99% of the leftover symptoms I had are gone. So if you want to try this milk cleanse, you can use my promo code TMCJodelle. That's TMCJODELLE for 10% off the cleanse. I can't recommend this cleanse more because of how much it's done for me, and I know it's going to do wonders for you as well. Everybody I know that's done this has had great success. It's not a diet, it's just a simple way to add better health, better gut health, better brain health in just as little as 8 days. So if you have questions on this or you think it's kind of kooky, reach out to me, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. I'm happy to inform you about how much I love this cleanse. And don't forget to listen to my latest podcast, where I podcasted with the founder of the cleanse just to break down all the information for you. But again, themilkcleanse.com, and use my promo code TMCJODELLE for 10% off. Milk really does do a body good. Every cell needs energy to perform, and one way that I like to provide fuel for those cells and those little mitochondria in there is with methylene blue. Methylene blue is literally food for your mitochondria. It delivers oxygen into the cell on so many different levels. And if you haven't tried it yet, I want to tell you about the product that I love from Lifeblood. So their methylene blue, lifeblood.co's methylene blue is my favorite for purity reasons, for quality assurance, knowing I'm getting a really great product. I did a podcast with the founder, Adam Marafiotti, so please check that out. But also check out lifeblood.co and use my code JODELLE, JODELLE, to save on your purchase of their methylene blue product. I also love their magnesium. I love their magnesium powder that you make your own magnesium out of. So check out all of their wonderful products and use my code to help you save. Methylene blue is also very anti-parasitic, antiviral, antimicrobial. So methylene blue to the rescue. Get yours today.